oh, somebody definitely did not survive an encounter in this building. Hiya, my name is Pyro Snow, and today I am talking about Animal Shelter 2. It is a simulator game made in July of this year, published by Playway SA and Games Incubator, developed by Games Incubator, and recommended to me to play by our one and only Lucian Bricks and the Maelstrom Hold. I did attempt to do a Let's Play video recording of this, but I had some technical difficulties. I don't know if it had to do with my setup or with the game itself, because the game does warn you that there can be issues during play, but it just kind of resulted in messed up audio every time, so I'm just going to do a voiceover of gameplay footage instead that I recorded. And we're going to talk about the game itself, comparison of the game versus real-life animal handling experience, and just an overall opinion of the game. Starting with gameplay, the game, like I said, is a simulator for running an animal shelter. The goal of the game is to rescue, rehabilitate, and cure, find proper homes for the rescued animals. The game starts with an avatar creation screen that I cannot for the life of me figure out how to get back to once completed. The avatar creation screen was difficult to work with anyways, as I could not pick my own colors for clothing items. The only way I could figure out how to get the color I wanted was to just go back and forth between two pieces of clothing until the desirable color came up. And then, as I said, I just couldn't find a way to get back to that screen. The game has you do certain activities with your pets via missions or via the pet's own whims. And doing these tasks will render the pet more adoptable. These things can, and this is small animal, cats and dogs only, no exotics. But these activities can include a walk in the park, active play with toys, bath and brushing, taking pets pictures, curing them of illness, and there was even one that it had me keep the pet happy for a certain amount of time. And yes, you do walk the cats on harnesses. They don't do the funny, like, falling over thing, which I think is a huge miss, because it's so funny to watch those cats be so put off by wearing a harness. In addition, I did not see a meter for happiness, but the pet does give off a happy face or a sad face whenever they are feeling one certain way. The controls are okay. Picking up and putting down of items can be a little weird because it is two different mouse clicks. I think left mouse button is pick up and right mouse button is put down. So instead of just using the same button, it has you pick up and put down with two different buttons. In addition, there is a throw mechanic for throwing the ball with a dog. So it can be a little strange, because there were multiple times where I wanted to throw the ball and instead I just placed it. The dog still went and ran and picked it up and brought it back to me like we were playing fetch. But it just there were a bunch of times where I was just like, and I just put that down. The facility itself is well laid out. In my opinion, it has a good flow to it. The upgrade mechanic on the management screen for the kennels has an upgrade mechanic where you can make them bigger and where you can add more kennels in, thereby allowing you to take in more pets. It does have areas marked off until progress is made, and when you first go into the game, the building looks abandoned and tore up and has a bunch of garbage everywhere. So to see these rooms marked off with yellow police tape that just says make progress to open was a little jarring, and I was just like, oh, somebody definitely did not survive an encounter in this building. This is like a crime scene. And once you make that progress, that tape comes down. The facility also can be decorated, and the walls inside and out changed color, and furniture moved around inside, so there is an element of user customization. Once the pet is considered adoptable, you have to find them the best adopter. And the way you do that is there are traits that the pet and the owner have, and you just find the most compatible by putting up an ad for the pet to be adopted. Now, you can put more money into it, and you can get more accuracy in the post. It can last a little longer. And that way you get a better adopter pool. But it's up to you if you want to put in the money to that. But there is a reward for making a compatible match of pet and adopter, because you get more reputation, which does dictate the status of your shelter and what items become available in the shop for you to purchase. Now, game versus reality. How am I qualified to make assessment on a game about working with animals? Well, I work with animals. I am a veterinary technician assistant to a small animal clinic local to my area. Plus, I also have previous dog groomer experience. My first job working with animals professionally was I was a bather for a dog groomer who was also local to the area. This does not mean I can give out free medical advice. I sincerely urge you to take your animal to the vet if you think they need veterinary care. An important note about this section as we go into it that I want to stress: I am aware that this game is most likely marketed towards children, preteens, young teenagers who just want the experience of working with animals in a virtual form. This section is not meant to degrade the game's quality or insult the developers, just to compare the game to what I know from my personal experience working with animals. So my experience and my judgment of this game versus my real life experience is not to degrade the quality of the game or its lack of realism, just a comparison versus what I know as someone who works with animals on a regular but day-to-day basis. So we're going to start off with the fact that there is a silent husky as the first animal you bring into the shelter, which is just non-existent. There is no such thing as a silent husky that wasn't altered to be that way. Most huskies are actually very vocal, and that dog would, from the moment you bring it in, be going off like a car alarm. The next dog you get in the tutorial is a corgi, and it is also suspiciously cooperative. You have to give it a bath, and keep in mind, there is nothing tying this dog to the bathtub while you're giving it a bath. With the most amount of soap that I've ever seen used in giving a dog a bath, especially a dog that is double-coated. Huskies and corgis are double-coated dogs. That means they have an over and an undercoat. The amount of soap they had me use would mean that dog would have to be rinsed for days. And then there's the fact that you pull up a hairdryer to blow dry the dog, and the corgi does absolutely nothing about it. That's not real. That's not true. That husky would be biting at the air coming out of that hairdryer. Most likely. And then there's the fact you bring these cats into the facility, and they are super cooperative. Keep in mind that most of these animals come from a bad situation because they are rescues. Not all of them, just most of them. So you're pulling them from a bad scenario, and you can just carry them around the facility without a carrier or no scruffing or a harness or really anything. You're just holding this cat in your hands. False. That cat is trying to eat you. At the very least. Now, I will say that cats that have been feral and then are domesticated tend to be very grateful for their new home experience versus living out on the streets and having to fend for themselves. But here's the thing about cats versus dogs in the setting that I'm used to. Dogs are natural people pleasers. Even if they're aggressive, you've still got like a 60-40 chance of getting done what you've got to get done. Cats, run a timer. And when that timer is out, all bets are off. And they'll tear off your face. It doesn't matter if you were the owner. It doesn't matter if you saved them. All bets are off, and you better run. But moving on, we can talk about the clinic side of things, because there is a clinic that you can open up in the facility to cure the pets of any illnesses they have. I will give the game credit. The thermometer goes in the right place. Usually on cats and dogs in a professional setting, you take a temperature on them from the rectum. But I want to know whose bright idea it was to run analyzer testing with saliva. Because that was a funny find for me. I was so excited for the vet clinic side of things to open up in the game. I was like, "Ooh, this is where I'm going to shine. This is where my knowledge will come into play." And literally, it just has you take a temperature and test the saliva of the pet. And I'm like, "Huh? A what?" The only information I can glean from a dog's drool or a cat's drool, if they are drooling, is that they might be nauseous. And that is a heavy emphasis on might. Because my dog drools like shoestrings. Like Turner and Hooch style. So I just want to know whose bright idea it was to test with saliva. On that same note, there isn't the first mention of vaccines or parasite prevention anywhere, or like food sensitivities, dietary restrictions, nail trims, anal gland expressions. None of it. I would figured I would at least see vaccinations and parasite prevention. Which, a hill that I will die on. Please get your pets vaccinated. It is for their health, and I promise you, from the side of the fence where we are charging you for these things, it is so much cheaper, infinitely more cheap, to get your pets vaccinated and preventative care than it is to get care for the problem. I promise you. But like I said, I can't give you medical advice. I also want to point out, there was a dog that was supposed to be blind in the game and stared right at me. I get it, there could be partial blindness and it could see shapes, but he tracked me wonderfully for a dog that couldn't see. And then I kind of have a problem with the whole dogs only get baths and cats get brushed, because long-haired dogs will need to be brushed. And this game had me brush a hairless cat. What am I brushing? I'm just stimulating the skin at this point, which I could do with my hands. I could just do a massage on the cat and and that could be it. I could just give the cat a massage and that would be it. You brush long hair pets to prevent knots and matting, because if a dog or a cat has a mat and you wet that mat, or it just gets tighter through life, then it's painful and that has to be shaved. So the fact that it strictly had you bathe dogs and brush cats, I understand that that's just easier generally, but you can still give a cat a bath. You know, you can still give a cat a bath. It's fine. Oh, and there was not one mixed breed animal in that whole game that I could tell. There was not one mixed breed. I didn't even see a doodle, which that's crazy because doodles are the hottest thing right now. But, you know, that's just my, personal experience on the matter. So, overall opinion on the game. The game is well balanced, and you kind of have the ability to build your own pace. Because right out the gate, once I finished the tutorial, I upgraded my kennels, both cat and dog, and then immediately tried to get a bunch of animals in. And you can hire workers to help you kind of streamline your process. They'll go in and clean up the kennels, pick up poo and urine, for you, so you don't have to do it. You can focus more on the activities to make the animals more adoptable. But it is well paced for younger people who love animals and want to have some experience with it. Now, I'm still of the personal opinion that the saliva thing is weird. It would be infinitely more realistic if you did tests with the fecal matter, but I'm not going to judge. I get it, blood and urine and fecal matter is gross, but you're already handling fecal matter in the game. Why not just kind of throw the bone in at that point and do fecal testing? But I'm not a game dev. It's not what I do. The game does have a multiplayer capability that I did not touch on, but it does mean that you can have multiple people helping you manage the facility, make the pets more adoptable, help them with activities. So once you get to that point out of the tutorial, if you have a bunch of friends you want to play with, this game would be a lot of fun. If you have friends who don't mind picking up virtual doggy doo and you're in. I feel like the customization of the avatar could be a bit better, and maybe a way to get back to that avatar creation screen. At least make it more obvious, because I could not find it at all. And some more animal diversity would be my note, just because there are so many mixed breeds. I'm not saying that purebreds don't end up in kennels in shelters, because they definitely do. There are definitely animals that people pick out just because they're so cute, and then they get them home and realize, I'm not cut out for this. Happens a lot with terriers and like dachshunds. I cannot tell you the number of owners I see in a regular work week that have dachshunds, and they're years old, and they cannot get them potty trained. They're just very stubborn dogs, and they get back issues. Something terrible. Also, the huskies just screaming like a normal real husky would be hilarious, but absolutely not necessary. But this game, I would recommend it to any little girl or boy or person who wants to have some fun taking care of animals. As always, give some love to the game devs who work so hard to put out these games and bring creative ideas to life. The game is $24.99 on Steam. There is a bundle option so that you can get the first game as well. And it does have an overall positive rating on Steam, which I would agree. It is overly positive. They still have those fixes to do, I'm sure, with like loading times and such. And there were a couple of glitches that I encountered through the game. But other than, the game was really, really good and really, really cute, and I had a lot of fun with it. Also, make sure you go to the maelstromhold.com where my articles are posted, and you can join the Discord there. I do pop in from time to time, and I frequent our podcasts. If I'm not in the podcast itself, I'm usually in the comments. You can also check my creator page for my socials, and I will see y'all next time.